Welcome, everybody. So glad you're here tonight. If you'll do me a huge favor to start off the night, turn to your right and give that person a high five. Pow. Turn to your left, give that person a high five. Pow. And now, celebrate with us as we connect with JSC. JSC, we're glad you're here with us this afternoon, this evening. Let's start over. I want to connect them. Let's do that one more time. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you're here tonight. If you'll do me a huge favor to start us off, if you'll turn to your right and high five the person next to you, that would look like this. Pow. Ha, we went the wrong way. And if you'll turn also to your left and give that person a high five. Pow. Let's give a high five to the people at JSC. Pow. Right? Glad you guys are here. If you're new here, I want to speed you up where we've been. So we've been in a series called Imagine If. And what we've been doing is we've been looking at 4 things that Jesus gave his disciples to do in different blocks. And it was kind of a template for kind of living. And when he would give these things, what he would do is basically give them questions or give them stories that made them imagine if it was possible that that thing would happen. So the first week, what we did is we looked at imagine if we invite. If every single one of us took the penny challenge, which everybody got a penny, and the goal was that they would find one person in their school, their neighborhood, their home, wherever it is, and they would invite that person to somewhere, whether it be church, whether it be prayer of salvation, whatever it was, we were challenging you to say, what if you were the type of person that invited others to take the next step? The second week, what we did is we looked at investing. And we asked the question, imagine if we invested. Now, when we invite somebody and they come to church, we break them up into small groups and they go into a room and they discuss things. That's what we call investing. During that week, what we did is we talked about how it's not hard to invest, but it does take effort. It's not like inviting. I took a megaphone out and I yelled through the megaphone, and that's inviting. And then whenever we get them to come, what does it look like to invest? Because everybody is at a different place. So what we said is it's going to take effort. Most of the time, you're not going to see payoff. You're not going to see that person just automatically give up all their sinful habits, and then they're going to be this super Christian. And the challenge for that week was, what if you went and did something practical in your community and made a difference in investing? And so the challenge was, and some of you took it, and I'm so proud that you did, amazing job. But the challenge was to go take a hat or a scarf or whatever jacket and put it on the statue and take a picture and basically tell the world, I'm investing in my community. And this week, what we're going to do is we're going to unpack the word impart. Imagine with me if we imparted. Now, some of you don't understand that word right off the bat, like invite and invest, so let's break that down for you. Impart means to make information known. So we can see right off the bat that inviting somebody is letting them know that we're calling them to something. If we're investing, most of the time we have to use words. And so we're imparting information to them about what we know. Now, each one of us imparts information differently. I like to call myself a storyteller because I like to gather information through stories. Other people like facts and figures. Other people like to just kind of feel the atmosphere and figure out what's going on. There's all different ways to impart something to someone. Let's say, for instance, when you walked in the door, it was somber, it was quiet, the lights were off, there was no craziness going on, nobody was on stage yelling at you to do games and stuff. You would walk in and you would be like, what are they trying to tell me? Also, this isn't my youth group, what happened? But we would be communicating through what we were doing in the atmosphere. So there's lots of ways to communicate things. And some really, really smart people way back in the day did this. And so I want to give you kind of 2 examples of imparting information, but a classic way of imparting information is to kind of leave someone hanging. So there was a there's a problem called the candle problem. And basically, a psychologist, super smart guy, brought a bunch of people in and he gave them 3 items. And they were on a table, and he just gave them simple directions. He gave them a candle, he gave them a box of thumbtacks, and he gave them a box of matches. And he said that you needed to basically put the candle on the wall somehow using the 3 items, and that you had to light the candle and none of the wax could drip onto the table. And so that was the goal of the candle problem. And so everybody got to work right away. They started trying to figure out where we were going with this, and so they would immediately grab the candle and take a tack and try to shove it through the wall. Well, that didn't work. The candle would fall. The other idea that almost everybody had was they would take the match and they would burn the end of the candle and they would try to stick the end of the candle to the wall. But again, there's wax that's dripping because once they lit that candle, there was nothing to catch it. In his study of lots and lots and lots of people, he realized that people had a fixed function for the box. That's a fancy way of saying they could not see the box as something they could place the candle in. They just couldn't. And so what would happen is they would have all these thumbtacks and they'd be like, why did they give us so many thumbtacks? But they weren't thinking, let me just pour the thumbtacks out and use the box. See, a lot of times that's how it is for us. We get all of the elements in the Bible, and Jesus gives us, here's this verse, or here's this idea, or here's this story, and then all of a sudden we get stuck because we can't think beyond what he gave us. And a lot of times what happens is we just stop there. We go, let the preacher do it, let somebody else who's smart and went to school do that. Like we just stop. And that's what happened in the candle problem. Everybody sat down and went like, I can't solve it. Until someone came up, poured the thumbtacks out, placed the candle inside of it, put a tack through the box, and then lit the candle and said, solved, right? And part of our mission is to get you to understand that it's not hard to take the elements if you know how to use the elements. If you don't know how to use the elements, if we're not inviting you to something, investing in you, and then telling you how to use those 2 pieces, then we're not doing what Jesus gave us. We're not telling the world how to solve the problem. See, there's a lot of problems in our age that we don't know how to solve. Okay, some of you didn't like that one, so let me try a different one. This is called the 9-dot problem. The 9-dot problem, another really, really smart guy, gave the instruction. He brought people in at different times, and he gave them a piece of paper, a little cardstock, just like the one you got tonight. And it had 9 dots on it. And he said you can use no more than 4 lines to connect all of the dots. But you have to connect all of the dots. And you can't take your pen or pencil off of the paper. So some of you have already tried to solve the problem. Some of you have already Googled, trying to Google the answer. Others of you are like, what? How is that even possible? Because here's what you're going to do. You're going to start drawing lines. You're going to go from here, okay, 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines. Oh no, I got 2 more dots. Where do I go? I can either go there and it leaves that dot out, or I can go there and it leaves that dot out. But I've used my 4 lines. Now, some of you wizard, genius, Einstein-y people in the room have already figured it out. You already know the answer to it, or you've already seen this problem before. Others of you are still going, I don't know how to solve it. Others of you, I see you on your phone trying to figure it out right now. Here's the thing, I'm not going to solve it for you, and I'm not going to give you the answer. Because there is an element, I explained in the first problem, that we're going to tell you how to use the elements. There's going to be moments when I come up on stage or somebody else comes up on stage, or they pull you to the side and they start to impart information to you, and there's going to be other moments where they go, figure it out. See, both are problems. Both are solvable problems. I gave you the answer to one, but I didn't give you the answer to the other. See, that's how Jesus acted. Sometimes he would give the disciples the answer. Here is the answer you're looking for. Most of the time, he did not give the disciples a definitive answer. Now, I want to tell you a story from Matthew 28, but to really tell you the story, we're going to read it together, but let me kind of set up where we're at. So Jesus, if you don't know this, died on the cross. He came out of heaven as God, walked as man, and lived a sinless life. The whole goal, his whole mission was to come down and live sinless, die for all of us, and then be resurrected, which basically just means, it's a fancy way of saying to come back to life. So some of you don't know that, and that's okay. But that's what he did, and we're going to enter the story where it's in between the time that he died on the cross and then was resurrected. So jump in with me. You'll look on the screen as I read it here, but it's in Matthew 28, verse 1. Early on Sunday morning, as the new day was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went out to visit the tomb. Suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, rolled aside the stone, and sat on it. His face shone like lightning, and his clothing was as white as snow. The guards shook with fear when they saw him, and they fell into a dead faint. So they just, boom. Verse 5. Then the angel spoke to the women. Don't be afraid, he said. I know you're looking for Jesus who was crucified. He isn't here. He's risen from the dead just as he said would happen. Come see where his body was lying. And now go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead, and he is going ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there. Remember what I have told you. The women ran quickly from the tomb. They were very frightened, but also filled with great joy. And they rushed to give the disciples the angel's message. Verse 9. And as they went, Jesus met them, and he greeted them. And they ran to him, grasped his feet, and worshiped him. What the heck? You have women going out. He's dead. He's been put in a tomb. It's like us going to a burial site, dropping somebody in the ground, putting the dirt over it. They just used to do it in a rock. So they roll this giant stone in front of a cave, which is how they buried people. And here's this angel that jumps, basically shoots out of the sky, rolls the stone away, sits on it, kind of like, suckers. And he's freaking these ladies out. You got to put yourself in this position for a second. Here are women who probably were at the cross, maybe not necessarily next to the cross, but they were somewhere along the road, and they watched him die and said, oh, it's all over. He wasn't the Messiah. He wasn't the promised Savior. He wasn't the guy that was going to die and then be resurrected. He just wasn't that guy. Let's go just put spices on his body and do all the things we need to do ceremonially. And so they did that. They went to the tomb. They did these things. And as they're going, this epic thing happens. And here's the angel sitting on the tomb. And he says, the first words he says, which is kind of classic of angels basically in the Bible, is, don't be afraid. Well, of course they're afraid. Most of these ladies there, and Mary's there, another Mary's there, I'm sure there's other ladies, they're standing there going, what the heck? They're probably fearful, like, what is he going to do to us? Where did he come from? What do I have to do? I was just coming to do my job. And here we sit in the midst of the story, and this angel says, Jesus, your promised Messiah. Maybe some of you, he doesn't say this, but there's like this innuendo in the language where he's basically saying, like, even the doubting amongst you now are seeing that this is about to be true. Everything that's led us up to this point, the whole story of Jesus, this is the end of him being on earth, and then he's going to go back to heaven. There's this epic moment, and these ladies are the first to hear about it. Angel goes, go and tell. Run and give the information away. Make it known that Jesus did die. He did rise. He's no longer here. There's nothing left. He did everything he said he was going to do. Go. And they go. They just run and they do it. They're imparting, and halfway there, Jesus meets them. Holy, could this day get any better? You have two moments in epic angelic proportion. They're probably still in shock about what's going on. They start to run back to the other followers and disciples. They start to think about, what the heck, are they even going to believe us? There's probably some doubts amongst them, and they're running, and and there's Jesus right there. The person they watched get crucified and murdered. And they didn't see him in the tomb. The angel let them see Jesus isn't there. Here's the crazy thing. They didn't ask a lot of questions. They just ran up to Jesus. They worshiped him, which in my mind means they dropped to their knees. They're kissing his feet. They're raising their hands and saying, OMG. Literally, here is God right in front of us, the most amazing, most epic moment. What happened? So you are the Savior. So you are everything you told us. Here's the problem. Here's what's missing with us, students. Here's what's missing in my life. That moment, we didn't get to experience that moment. So often we lose sight of the fact that early disciples were murdered because of this revelation. Early disciples were burned alive, upside down, and put in boiling hot water because of their belief system and what this story is communicating to us. And if anything, as a pastor, it's so important that we understand that this is the whole reason why you and I believe in Jesus, because of this story. It's that important. We could pick any other story in the Bible and talk about how important it is to share that story. But if we skip past the fact that Jesus died and rose again, which is exactly what he communicated and told everybody was going to happen during his ministry, then we've missed the whole point of the Bible. See, the gospel is only completed when Jesus raises from the dead. Jesus had never risen from the dead, then we would not even be in the room tonight. I wouldn't be a pastor. There'd be no reason to even talk about this, because I don't know if you know this, but there were other messiahs that lived during Jesus' time. There were other people that were popping up going, I'm going to save you guys. And then they had a following, and then that person died, and there was no resurrection. Here's a story where what they said was going to happen did happen. And then it's this just, whoa. So Jesus came for me? He did that? He came out of heaven. He walked a sinless life. He died on the cross. He rose again 3 days later. He had already been saying that all along. He shows up. He shows these women that he's there. These women run. The story goes on. They run to the disciples, and now he shows up with the disciples, and he's like, guys, here I am. See, it's really easy for us where we live, what we see. We've got our cell phones. We've got all these other problems. We've got all these issues. We're trying to work out the 9-dot problem of our life, but we're missing the fact that Jesus came and died, and that's the whole crux of us actually getting to live. And that we're supposed to communicate that. We're supposed to impart that to the world. We're supposed to tell people all the time about that's supposed to be the never-ending, captivating story that we go like, we've got to do something about this knowledge. See, knowledge, we get it for a reason. When you go read a book, you're reading knowledge, you're reading wisdom, you're reading somebody else's ideas based on somebody else's ideas. And what happens is you start to pour over that knowledge, and then what happens is it seeps into who you are, and then you can't help but speak it out. You can't help but create moments where people would come face to face with the knowledge that Jesus died and rose again. See, that's why we do youth group. That's why we do small group. That's why we do outside events. That's why we go to retreats. That's why we go to camps. The whole point is for us to come to a moment, maybe face to face and maybe in a group, where somebody goes, do you know the story of Jesus? Okay, we invited them. We brought them to church. Ryan, I brought somebody to church. Amazing, great job. And now they're being invested in a small group. Awesome. That is incredible. The third part, now we need to tell them about Jesus. See, sometimes it works in the reverse way. So I'm thinking we invite and then we invest and then we impart. Sometimes it's just we impart. We skip the other two steps. See, imagine with me for a second if you and I went into our schools on Monday. I'm going to give you two days of grace, Thursday and Friday. And you go in on Monday and you say, hey guys, Jesus died and rose again. You know, stand up at lunch. Everybody's going to look at you weird. Some of you have the confidence to do that. You believe in this story so much, you go for it. Just know your life's going to get really difficult after that. Because the knowledge we hold, there's so many people trying to rebut it and come against it and tell everybody that we're wrong and lie about it and just twist the story just ever so slightly that it makes everyone not believe in the story. But see, maybe you got to just skip the invite part and the invest part, and you just got to go, I'm going to accept the challenge Ryan gave me tonight. I haven't given you a challenge yet, but you're going to hear it. I'm going to accept that challenge, and I'm going to skip those two steps, and on Thursday, Friday, Monday, whatever day it is, I get the courage up, I walk over to my friend, and I say, hey, do you go to church? And they say, no. You say, do you know Jesus? No. Can I tell you about Jesus? What if they say no, Ryan? You asked. That's a win. That's what Jesus was all about. Well, the reason the angel falls in front of the women and then they see Jesus is because Jesus was communicating through a moment, an interaction, an encounter that he was after the knowledge of, I told you I was going to do it, I did it, go tell. So you're going to tell. But so we went negative quick on that. We said they're just going to say no that they don't want to hear. Did you know that the majority of people that are asked if they want to hear about Jesus say yes? Somewhere around like 82% of people that are asked, would you like to hear about Jesus, at least give you the benefit of the doubt, even if you're a stranger, and say, I'll listen. See, here's the thing. We automatically think that the knowledge we have, no one's going to accept it. And some aren't, but a lot are. The challenge is this, to tell one person about the death and resurrection of Jesus right now. Maybe it's the person sitting next to you that you brought, we've all been waiting for that person to be here, and we're glad that you're here, and you're hearing from me the words, but you also need to hear from your friend. Jesus died and he rose. He's offering you life. Are you going to accept it? That's the challenge. Imagine with me today if everybody in our youth group was about this challenge. We were about inviting people, investing in people, imparting knowledge, the knowledge of Jesus to people. I guarantee you it would transform this youth group in a way that we've never seen before, and it would transform the communities we live in the Black Hills, and ultimately the world. Let's pray. Some of you in here tonight, you need to give your heart and life to Jesus. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The whole reason I'm in ministry is because of the knowledge that I have about Jesus. I believe with all that I am that Jesus died and he rose again. And maybe tonight you just need to also say with your words that same thing. It's not the power of your words. The Bible talks about that all have sinned and fallen short of God's glory. The wages of those sins, the payment for those sins is death. But Jesus came in and he rescued us from that payment, and he was actually the payment. Bible goes on to say that if we confess and believe, we're saved. See, Jesus did the work. All we have to do is recognize and in the depths of who we are, we just believe that that's true about him and that he did save us. And that's the moment of salvation. If that's you tonight, I want you to pray this prayer with me. Dear Jesus, tonight, I trust you. I believe you died and rose again. I give you my heart. Help me to live for you. Amen. Look up with me for a second. If you prayed that prayer tonight, what I want to ask you to do is tell me. I want you to be brave tonight as everybody walks out the doors. I want you to walk up to the front, and I want to have a conversation with you. So I want you to be brave. I'm not going to make you do anything weird. I just want to congratulate you on the best decision of your life, and I want to help you take that next step. So if that's you, come forward. Otherwise, let's dismiss and let's head on to groups. JSC, it's an honor to be with you guys. I'm so glad that you're hearing these messages. If there's anything I can do at all for you, you let Brother Chris know, and I will be there to help out. Cheers, guys.